The electrician.
We getting seed money. We need seed money.
So, do you wanna say peace or anything to the people out there? Tell them to go get the books.
Go get my dad's books. They're pretty good.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yo. All right, so you want to introduce the book?
Family chemistry.
No, like this guy, you got to hit the mic like it's a rap concert. Like, yo, check this out. Check 1, 2. Like, yo, today, you know what I mean? You got
Today we're reading Atoms of Self-Development for Your Seeds, Build Generational Health, Family Chemistry.
What about all that in there? You skip Electrician
Apprentice Guidebook Volume 1 with pre-black lines matter dictionary made by Chase Duquesne and Dr. EnQi the Show.
All right, so I got you. Let me help you. Okay, if I hold on to this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, in the first episode, Aubrey introduced us to the book. She went through the introduction and some of the early concepts. Now, this guy over here, Mr. Osiris, over here, Mr. Marine Biologist. Yeah, Mr. Marine Biologist. That's what he is. Just how nervous you want. What if that girl was watching?
Mm.
You want me to say her name on the video? All right, so, but yeah, so my man here, he's talking about he's gonna be a marine biologist. So, yeah, I figure it's only right for him to pick up where Aubrey left off and take us into the, you know what I mean? Take us into to that work there. Yeah.
And change, and the use of these processes to form new substances.
Hold on. Start back. Yeah, so it makes sense.
Chemistry, the branch of science that deals with the identification of the substances of which matter is composed, the investigation of their properties and the ways in which they interact, combine, and change, and the use of these new processes to form new substances, the complex emotional or psychological interaction between two people.
So let me stop you right there. First of all, you gotta relax. Y'all like, I don't know what, so listen, this is genetics right here that you're seeing. Right? So as you see me do these videos with the children, you're gonna notice that some of them have the daddy gene where they just kind of like cool on the camera. You're gonna notice some of them get like a little anxiety, a little nervous, like they get a little awkward when the camera come on. That's from their mom. Their mom is like a certified gangster from the old school, like, the cameras, man. We can't get them cameras. So it's crazy how genetics work. But when we go through the books, you're going to see that we utilize the different aspects of the meaning of the term chemistry. So chemistry is the interaction of atoms, and it also is defined as the interaction between people. So it's interesting.
Matter is composed of pure energy, just like music. Physics, the branch of science concerned with the nature of properties,
Mm-mm.
with
Slower.
the nature and properties of
Mhm.
matter and energy. The subject matter of physics, distinguished from that of chemistry and biology, includes mechanics, heat, light, and other radiation, sound, electricity,
Magnetism.
and the structure of atoms. Love equals life equals light. Two words do two major things. They provide food for the soul, for the mind, and light for the soul. Matter is made of energy, and energy is the fuel that makes matter do stuff. Studying the building blocks of matter is self-development. Chemistry has two meanings.
Hold on. Let's go back to that. Studying the building blocks of matter is self-development. Why?
Because matter is essentially from information that your body needs. It's,
There's no wrong answer.
okay.
Yo, I can see your heart jumping out of your shirt. Yeah, there's no wrong answer, and matter can be looked at as almost like solid information. It's kind of what we talked about on the last video in terms of genes and how your body is built up. But why it's important to see matter as self-development is literally that's how yourself is built. Your body, you, your mind, your soul, your spirit, all of the things that make you are built in that way. You know, even when you start out as a baby, you start out as one cell, and that one cell multiplies into a bunch of cells, then splits up into 3 layers of skin: endoderm, ectoderm, mesoderm, or rather, endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm. And then those 3 layers of skin keep on multiplying and become all of the different types of cells, tissues, bones, everything. So, same thing in your mind. You know, our brain is built that way. Our thought complexes, our neural networks. If we don't know something, that means we don't have a neural network. A neural network is basically a bunch of neurons that come together to basically store that information. So, like, say, for instance, we never rode a bike before. We don't have a neural network for riding a bike. When we first try to do it, we get the first few neurons reaching out to link up to each other. And when they do that, it's kind of, the links is like weak.
Mm-hmm.
As you keep practicing, more neurons come together. You build bridges between more and more neurons. As those neural connections get stronger, thicker, larger, it becomes easier and easier. And then all of a sudden, one day, you no longer need your dad holding the backs, holding the seat while you fall over and mess up my sneakers and all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, then you're just riding. And then as you continue to ride, you know what I'm saying, you can start getting faster and doing turns and no hands. And that's kind of how it goes with everything. You know what I'm saying?
Chemistry has two meanings, which are both related. Chemistry is the science of what stuff is made of and what relationships are made of, bonds. The basic principles of nature remain the same, i.e., small things combining to make larger things. People can combine to make teams, people can combine to make families, people can combine to make companies, etc. People can be considered atoms. the fundamental unit of society. Interesting way to see people, huh? Relationships between people are what matters most. Matter. Physical substance in general, as distinct from mind and spirit. In physics,
Go
matter,
ahead.
which occupies space and possesses rest mass, especially as distant from energy. An affair or situation under consideration, a topic be of importance, has significance.
So stop right there. So that's different definitions of matter. So just like chemistry, matter can apply to the scientific term where it's like the material of stuff, matter, or it can apply to like subject matter, right? This is the matter at hand. Or it can apply to like your feelings, your emotions, like what's the matter? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why are you upset? Or why are you excited? Or why are you happy? Or whatever the case may be. So matter also has this dual, a duality where it can be this, but it can also be that.
Everything in our world is made of matter. Matter is made of atoms. Atoms are made of pure energy. Cell phones, laptops, game systems, sneakers, burgers, pizza, boys, girls, etc. are all matter and are made of atoms. Atom, the basic unit of chemical element. Chemical element, each of more than 100 substances can not be broken down.
Don't mess that up.
That cannot be
Start
broken.
again.
Okay. Chemical element, each of more than 100 substances that cannot be broken down into simpler substances and are primary constituents of matter. Each element is distinguished by its atomic number, i.e., the number of protons in the nuclei of its atom.
Stop. That right there is the most important thing to understand in science. All science is built on that definition of what a chemical element is, right? That's why I said I don't want you to mess that part up right there where it says more than 100 substances that cannot be broken down into simpler substances. Because people would think that this shirt is made out of something different than my skin, which is made out of something different than a rocket, or made out of something different than poop, or like, yeah, all of these things are made out of the same 90 something atoms. That's it. There's nothing else outside of those atoms, and those atoms, make up everything. Now, I have a different theory of how the atoms interact, right? My theory is that it's about the light and the magnetism, which doesn't show up as physicality. So I don't necessarily think that atoms are 99% empty, but anyway, that's another conversation. But how these atoms come together is everything, right? When they talk about organic food and so on, yeah, that's carbon, right? That's a key thing to know, like for people that's just interested in food stuff.
You will notice that in many ways, the world of atoms is similar to the world of atoms.
Are you dying to finish reading,
No?
Yo, this guy. Go ahead, start again.
Matter is solid.
No.
Oh,
Right there.
you will notice that in many ways, the world of atoms is similar to the world of atoms. Matter is solid, but atoms are not. Traditional science will say that atoms are 99% empty space. I do not. Atoms are identified based on the relationship of four particles: electrons, the skin of atoms that create bonds as well as absorb light; protons, the abs or core of atoms that provide a positive balance to electrons. Neutrons, a part of an atom's core, very much like protons, but with no electric charge. Photons, a particle of light that causes electrons to vibrate, absorb, and radiate light. These four particles are kind of cliquey. Protons tend to vibe with neutrons, while photons and electrons kind of have their own vibe. The thing is, the four particles operate in queues, cliques, within close proximity of each other. The key thing to know about atoms.
To explain that, right? Cliques within close proximity to each other. So I guess any object could do. I'm trying to find object specific. I guess any object could do. So just grab these glasses. All right. So let's say this jar is a proton. Ordinarily, this top we could consider a neutron because in almost all the atoms, protons are stuck to neutrons. Hydrogen is different. Hydrogen doesn't have any neutrons, but that's the exception. For the most part, protons are stuck to neutrons. Moving around outside here, just floating around, doing this thing, can't really tell where it is or where it's going at the same time. You know, it's always uncertain, but you know, you got electrons out here. Now, electrons moving around out here absorbs light or photons that's coming towards it. And when the electrons absorb the light, that makes the electrons speed up and start moving a lot faster. And after they absorb the light, move around, then they re-radiate out the light and send it to like another atom maybe, or just back out into the,
Yeah.
It's like playing tap with the ball or hot potato. Right, so that's the relationship. Electrons deal with photons, protons deal with neutrons, but at the same time, the protons keep the electrons close. The protons keep the electrons close.
Yeah. The key thing to know about atoms is wave-particle duality. Duality is a fundamental quality of subatomic particles that was created in ancient Egypt, dua means to praise, and the duat was considered to be the underworld where gods, stars, and souls reside. Duality was expressed as an intrinsic part of the creation of life.
Okay, stop. So what's duality to you? What does that mean to you?
It's two things. Like
what kind of two things?
Something's double-sided?
Kinda. That's kinda, but what kind of two things though? Because it's not just any two things.
Two of the same thing?
No. Right. Two of the opposite.
Yeah.
So it's like male, female, positive, negative, night and day, hot, cold, like that.
Right. It's interesting that this concept is the basis of quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, duality means that subatomic particles in essence are also subatomic waves.
Stop again. So not only does that mean that the basic part, so quantum mechanics is like the most advanced science that we have on Earth right now. Like, that's what your world is primarily going to be driven by. the world of yesterday was kind of driven mostly by physics. But all of the innovations and all of that kind of stuff coming now is going to be quantum mechanics, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful to be able to learn that the core of quantum mechanics, is not complicated, which is based on duality, opposites. But then also that goes all the way back to an ancient Egyptian, like storytelling kind of, because that makes it easier to learn. You know what I'm saying? Trying to learn it from textbooks sometimes it's a little crazy because, you know, it's just words and the words are like empty. When you're able to take those meanings and turn them into animals or people or stories about different gods, and it brings the concepts to life and it makes it easier to learn. So that like gives a cheat code, because now as you're going through school, you know, you can refer to some outside sources to find some cheat codes.
These groupings, protons, neutrons, electrons with visiting photons, are called atoms. People have said to me, Doc, why do you include photons in your description of atoms? There are no atoms to my knowledge that are not consistently bombarded with photons. Each atom has a fingerprint called an atomic spectra.
Mm-hmm.
This means our understanding of atoms have more room to grow.
Correct, because atoms don't exist outside of the concept of light, which is important because pigment is important.
I'm going to start right here.
What was I saying? The concept of light, which is important because pigment is important.
Very much like a family is made of separate people, a team is made of separate people, a company is made of separate people, but operating as one. Protons, neutrons, and electrons are separate particles that operate as one. Protons and neutrons operate as a center. Electrons surround them like clouds, surround the Earth. The atmosphere layers are cytosphere, metrosphere, thermosphere, and even the non-layer layer, the ionosphere. Atom valences have a similar description to this. Different atoms are identified by different numbers of protons. Protons are considered the stable particle of the four. In most cases, atoms have the same number of protons and electrons, but not always. In most cases, atoms have the same number of protons and neutrons, but not always. Hydrogen doesn't have a neutron. Protons and neutrons are close in size as opposed to electrons, which are relatively tiny. Electrons are tiny, but form all the atomic bonds. They are the magic makers. Electrons are tiny, but their movement as a wave allows the cloud to be massive relative to the core, protons and neutrons.
So it's getting a little sciencey in there, right? So basically what I'm saying is that a proton in and of itself, right, is like the tip of, like the electron would be like the tip of my finger, where a proton would be like my fist, right? But electrons move so fast around that the cloud that the electrons make is way bigger than the size of the proton. So An electron by itself, tiny, but the cloud of electrons is way bigger. Even the cloud of just one electron zipping around so fast around that proton is one thing to think of the electron as tiny, but the impact of it is tremendous.
Electrons and protons are pretty much opposites in every way. Electrons weigh almost nothing, but take up the most space. Protons and neutrons take almost no space relatively, but add all the weight. Atoms equal chemical elements. Atoms equal chemical elements. The concept of the atom is credited to a Greek philosopher named Democritus. We must remember that the Greeks were educated by the Egyptians.
No, go back.
We must remember that the Greeks were educated by the Egyptians. Atom of the Egyptians may be the earliest concept of the atom. The modern concepts of the atom began with John Dalton's bullet ball model. His basic idea was
billiards is like pool, like pool on a pool table.
Yeah,
like not like a swimming pool, but like shooting pool. That's what like billiard ball is. You know what I'm saying? So the same way in America we have soccer, but outside America, soccer's called right. So here we play pool. Other places they play billiard ball.
Interesting. His basic idea was that atoms are small indestructible balls that crash into each other, causing reactions. 100 years later, in 1904, J.J. Thomson created the plum pudding model after discovering the electron. J.J. Thomson discovered the electron while experimenting with cathode tubes. These type of cathode tubes that are displayed throughout Dendera's temple.
Yeah, now hold on, stop right there. So this is another thing that's important, right? The discovery of the electron. So none of this science, right? Like when we go through the hit, like in school, when you learn about all this stuff, there's going to be no brown and black people associated with any of these discoveries. But the thing is, that's why we write our own books, right? Because we have to tell our story. So the cathode tubes that he used, J.J. Thomson, to discover electrons, literally was already used 3, 4, 5,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. They already knew all these secrets that we're just unlocking about nature. They knew a lot of them already. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's important to know. Now we got two things going back to ancient civilization, right?
Yeah.
We got the foundation of quantum mechanics, and now we got the foundation of literally chemistry itself. Like literally chemistry is about electrons, because if there's no electrons, then atoms don't come together. There's no such thing as matter. There's nothing. There's no life without electrons, right? So having, and I guess that's the beauty maybe of like making big pyramids and then like temples and all this kind of stuff and etching like these pictures into stone. Yeah, because books is good, but books is not as good as like stone, because stone is going to last way longer. And when you do that, people can't come along and change the narrative later. They can try, but
it's up there.
Yeah, it's right there on the wall.
Ernest Rutherford came 6 years later after J.J. Thomson with a model the model closest to what people are most familiar with today. Experimenting with gold foil, like what they discussed in the
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
So the Bhagavad Gita is like a I can't say like the Bible in India, but it's like a holy book in India.
Mm.
Yeah. So say that again. Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
Bog. Say like bog.
Bhag.
Yeah, there you go. Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
It's almost like Vegeta, right?
Yeah.
From Dragon Ball Z.
In fact, the Bhagavad Gita says to treat gold like stone. Interesting reference to masonry and gold, huh? Rutherford came up with the planetary model like planets absorbing the sun. Niels Bohr followed Rutherford by organizing the layers of the soon-to-be electron cloud. Bohr created shells labeled K through N being near the outermost shell. Erwin Schrödinger came along just a few short years later and swagged out Rutherford's model by adding in duality. He created.
Stop. So now duality is back again in the atomic models. Go ahead.
He created a set of equations that describe electrons as three-dimensional waves in an electronic field. This is the quantum mechanics version of the atom we have today. Judging by the time intervals we have, we're just about due for another upgrade.
Stop. So what I'm talking about is from the time we go back, right? So if you go back, we have Democritus, a Greek guy, right? Who came up with something, or is said to have come up with something, but really Democritus is credited with what they were learning from the Egyptians at that time, right? Then after that, you fast forward to John Dalton, right? And then 100 years later, you got J.J. Thomson. And then after J.J. Thomson, Ernest Rutherford, Niels Bohr, Erwin Schrödinger. And based on that upgrade every so often, because most people that don't know no better, they think that an atom is just an atom, is just an atom. You know what I'm saying? But actually, the scientific definition of that changes every so many years, which means, okay, so I'm going to ask you what you think it means. Matter is made out of atoms, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if what an atom is, the definition of that changes every so many years, what does that mean?
Repeat the question.
Matter, which is the fabric of our reality, matter, right? Like that material over there, that green screen material, right? Let's say that's matter. It's made out of something, right? In reality, I don't know what that's made out of, but just for the sake of the example, we're going to say that it's made out of nylon. Nylon is a material. You say cotton, let's say it's made out of cotton, then material don't matter. So let's say it's made out of cotton, right? Cotton is the atom, matter, made out of cotton. Every so many years, our definition of what an atom is changes. So what does that mean?
The first thing that came to mind was that we don't know everything about an atom yet, since can't really.
That's a fact. Since it's constantly changing, then that means obviously we don't know everything about it.
Okay.
And if we don't know everything about an atom, we don't know everything about
everything.
Because if everything is made out of matter, and matter is made out of atoms, but the definition of what an atom is changes every so many years, then that means our definition of matter has to change every so many years. So right now, science and most people are at a conflict. Most people are considered to be scientifically illiterate because people think that we live in a solid world. But the working definition that we have of atoms now, that atoms is made out of electrons, and electrons is waves of energy. So if electrons are waves of energy, and pretty much all subatomic particles follow that definition, then the world's not really solid.
Atoms are arranged and organized into a rectangle-shaped chart for ease of use. This chart is called the periodic table. The periodic table is arranged by number of protons, called the atomic number. Starting from the uppermost left-hand corner, the first being hydrogen. The order goes left to right in ascending order.
Okay, stop right there. Did you see Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan?
And that name is Neil, man. I knew this day would come, brother. Once you had sent me that 36-page, well-written treatise, I knew the drugs had worn off. I had to be as critical as possible so that maybe you would leave all this alone. See, we could leave all of that in the past, man. All I want to know is, does 1 times 1 equal 2, man? You see, you just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you, Terrence? You know you can't just go around rewriting mathematics, right? It's not for us to do, Terrence. I have to get rid of you once and for all. You ain't gonna kill me, man. Oh, I am going to. Because there's only room for one black genius at a time, Terrence. And that black genius is gonna be...
Interesting.
Yeah, so we need to get you guys, the youth. We need to get the youth familiar with the periodic table and what it means, early on, right? So this rectangle thing here called the periodic table is nothing more than a chart organizing the atoms. It's not like it's not a part of the atoms. Like there are a zillion different periodic tables. They got circle ones, spiral ones, triangle ones, all kinds of different ways to organize the atoms. Yeah, just to make it easier to use them. It's like when you go to different types of shows, right? Like you might go to an amphitheater, and the amphitheater is set up because the entertainment in the amphitheater requires the sound and certain geometry for the acoustics, whereas a stadium is a different type of entertainment for the audience, so the audience is going to be arranged differently. You know what I'm saying? But it's still setting up different people, just like different organizations of the periodic table. They all are there to do the same thing, but different purposes, because you have different ways of organizing them, depending on what you're using them for, you might want to organize them in a different way. So at the time when the periodic table came in, it was mostly physics, right? Matter is made out of atoms, so we want to organize it in terms of atomic weight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much the main reason why the periodic table is arranged like that. Main one is arranged like that.
Right. From top to bottom, each column goes in order of weight and reactivity. Each column can be seen as a family or a clique. Top to bottom, they have similar reactivity and, of course, are arranged by weight. Each atom's weight is calculated by adding protons plus neutrons together. Each proton and neutron has a weight of 1 to 10, and protons have a weight of 10.
Each proton and neutron has a weight of
1.
Right. So that's a comma. We gotta take a break right there. It's like you ran a stop sign right there. So we get ready to start working on driving. That a comma is like a yellow light. A period is like a red light. Okay, so the comma right there, we want you to take a break right there.
The noble gases are very bougie.
The noble glasses.
The noble gases are very bougie. Do not react with others. The noble gases are the column all the way to the right of the table. The halogens are very important because create salt. The salt of the earth. Halogens means salt generator. When a halogen reacts with a metal, a salt is formed. Sodium is an alkali metal. Sodium plus iodine equals table salt. These may be my favorites because iodine is here. The halogens are the column just to the left of the noble gases.
So that's these guys. That's fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine.
The halogen, I said that. The more you learn about the periodic table, the more you learn about yourself and the world around you. The entire world is made from the atoms on this table. There are many different versions of the table. This oblong square version is the most efficient. When there was only 50 or so known elements, Dmitry Mendeleev created this oblong square chart as a sort of compass to find new elements. Hydrogen is unique, even amongst a backdrop of individuality. It does not have a neutron. It consists of one proton and one electron. Magical. As above, so below. The most important thing in life is relationships. Relationships between atoms, people, and atoms. There are two basic types of relationships, sharing and non-sharing. Both types of relationships are needed of life. In a pregnant mother, the developing fetus is in a non-sharing relationship. The mother is sharing all of its resources, but the baby doesn't have anything to share just yet. That is probably the most iconic example of an ionic bond.
Right. So in that relationship, the baby is basically just a taker.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mother's a sharer, the mother's a giver, and the baby's a taker. The baby's robbing mom of all her nutrients and all of the good stuff. So that's why they get the saying that pregnant moms are eating for two, because the baby is going to take all the nutrients out of their body, basically to build their own body.
Electrons are the smallest particle in the atomic body, yet they are the most important. Bonding is an electric matter. Atoms sticking to each other are how our world is made. Atoms bonding usually stores light, endothermic. Breaking those bonds releases that light, exothermic. Amongst atoms, love is the thing that binds. At least it's supposed to be. Trauma, habits, temporary needs, etc. can also have can also bind atoms.
Stop. So atoms with a T, because the people listening, unless they actually have the book in front of them,
Like, yeah.
it's hard to tell the difference between somebody saying the word atom and
And
somebody saying the
Adam.
word Adam, right? So people, right, they bond over love, right? Or trauma, or atoms, electric. It's electric. That song was out long before I was even born. But anyway, go ahead. You smiling like you know the song, bro. My mom was dancing to that song.
Atoms form bonds by their electron clouds or electron waves. It is important to know and remember the concept of particle wave duality. Covalent bonds. When two or more atoms bond and share the electrons as waves and or particles, sharing makes you bigger than you are, just like atoms. If you're full of ideas, if you're full of good things, pour them out. Make room for more. Share them. God will keep filling you back up. The key to make your life really unique and worthwhile is to sharing what you know, sharing what has a certain unique magic of his own. Jim Rohn. Ionic bonds. When two or more.
Oh, it's a little crazy with that one. Let's go back and do that again right here. The key to make your
The
life.
key to make your life really unique and worthwhile is to share what you know. Sharing has a certain unique magic of its own. Jim Rohn, or John, I don't know his last name.
Rohn. Yeah, Jim Rohn.
Ionic bonds. When two or more.
No A, just ionic.
Ionic bonds. When two or more atoms bond and do not share their electrons as waves and or particles. Atoms are too small to be seen with a microscope, but when you combine, or when they combine, you have something you can see. There's about 100 quintillion atoms in 1 grain of sand. That's 100 quintillion atoms in 1 grain of sand. A grain of sand is about 25 times larger than a fine grain of salt.
You got it. Comparatively. No tivative. Comparatively. Yeah, trust yourself. You had it right the first time.
A grain of sand is about 3 times thicker than a human hair. With this in mind, try to imagine that an atom is 100 million times bigger than an electron. The number...
Hold on, let's run it back, because that's crazy. With this in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this in mind, try to think of an atom being 100 million times bigger than an electron. Can you think of anything being 100 million times bigger than anything else? That's like comparing the size of this jar to the size of the earth. Yeah, or we're comparing like a basketball to the size of the sun, maybe. Like that's comparing this jar to like the size of the whole earth, or maybe even like comparing a basketball to the sun. That's how big 100 million times is.
The number of electrons an atom has determines how many bonds it can form. Carbon seems to have the most love in its heart. It bonds almost everything important to life. Carbon can usually form 4 bonds. Carbon is the backbone to most atomic structures. It's the constant chemistry. Reactions in chemistry is basically how atomic relationships change. Change is a constant in the world of atoms and atoms. This is the key to understanding inspiration versus desperation. People can only change from desperation or inspiration. The ultimate truth is that conscious, deliberate change must happen through respiration, hard work on self-education, the art of becoming an autodidact. In the world of atoms, we bond to conspire. Bonds breed inspiration. Being lonely breeds desperation. Being lonely and alone are not the same.
All right, so you can stop right there.
Health is your real wealth. That's what we talk about. So even like the Mayweather boxing fitness gyms that I have, around the country as well as around the world, we just truly believe in health is your wealth. We want you working out. We're nobody's going to be here forever, but while we're here, we only have one body, we only have one temple, so we have to take care of our bodies, and that's what I'm doing. If I'm not going to invest in anything, I'm going to invest in myself. Health is your real wealth, so I got to make sure that I'm staying in good condition, in good shape.
Go to Amazon now. Get the generational health curriculum for you and your family. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late.